Yeah, just like to second what Priscilla said, in agreement that it would be lovely if we could all get here in person and have these meetings in person. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Good night.
Okay, any other public comments? All right, seeing none, we'll move on. We're tabling number 4, so we'll move on to number 5, update on the reappraisal contract. We did have a letter from the listers in our packet. I think it's pretty self-explanatory, but I will ask if there are any questions, and maybe we can have Cheryl, who's chair of the Board of Listers, come up and answer any questions that select board members may have. So you have a question?
I had just one. We also have in our packet the request for a 30-day extension, and that was, signed and approved. And that's good, but this is just on top of that, right?
Excuse me.
This is on top of that.
Right.
Extend the contract for a year.
Correct, Priscilla. The Cheryl Lindbergh, by the way, chair of listers. That request for an extension was granted by the select board, so that was filed with the property valuation and reviewed and the director, and that came back as an acknowledgement and an approval of that extension. So I wanted the select board to know that that had been approved. This memo that talks about an extension has to do with a different topic of an extension.
Right. Mary, you have a question?
Yes, just if Cheryl, you could explain what the different topic is, and does it have any bearing on our deadline to get our reappraisal done? Is there a thought of, being able to extend the process over another year, or how is this structured? Why is this happening?
Yes, Mary, Madam Chair. This extension is different in that it is a solution to fulfilling the responsibilities for a reappraisal by KRT, who is unable to complete the necessary work on a timely basis for all of the work to be done by them and the listers to be successful in filing an abstract by July 3rd. So this extension will is a request to extend the reappraisal from 4/1 of 24 to 4/1 of 25. And from the meeting that was attended by the town manager, the Board of Listers, and the chair of the select board, an email was sent to the reappraisal firm, key personnel, and asked if they would be willing to extend the timeline of the reappraisal work only to 4/1 of 25. And they have responded in the positive, and the town manager is working on a contract amendment.
Mary, go ahead.
And is this extension agreeable to the state?
This extension will be agreeable to the state. They were one of our district advisor was one of the individuals recommending this to us as a solution. And that will be something that we will file the RA 308 amended version to the state, strictly to let them know that the new reappraisal date will be April 1st of 25. And perhaps I can anticipate the question of what will happen next. And that is that the Board of Listers will, with the assistance of KRT on open permits, will be responsible for filing an abstract on July 3rd. Or before, if we can, to satisfy having a grand list eventually by no later than August 15th, again, hopefully before then, so that the select board can set a tax rate and tax bills can be issued.
Thank you, Cheryl. It's a great explanation.
You're welcome.
Yeah, as you recall, Mary, at the last meeting, Cheryl expressed some concern about whether everything could be done in that 45-day window if we got the 30-day extension. So this is the solution offered by the state to extend for a year, and everyone seems agreeable. And so what we need this evening is a motion from the select board to approve, to authorize the town manager to work with town council and the listers to draft an amendment to the reappraisal contract. And once that amendment is ratified, then we need to talk about how we'll get the word out to the public that there won't be a reappraisal this year, that it's been put off for a year. Marcia, I see your hand up. Go ahead.
So I'm wondering how much extra this is going to cost us?
Cheryl, you want to address that?
The extension is a time extension only without any amendment to the rest of the reappraisal contract. That is what we have requested. We have not indicated there would be any increase in cost to negotiate.
Marcia, go ahead.
So follow up, if this is going to go for another year, presumably they're going to charge for their time for another year. And I'm wondering, how can we be assured that this time it will be monitored and that we have timely updates about what's going on?
The remaining parts of the contract, and perhaps Brennan would like to speak to some of this. The remaining parts of the contract were not being changed, were not offered as a change. Only the dates, the year in which the current contract identified 2024, the amendment would identify 2025 instead. But the only request for a contract amendment was to the date of reappraisal of 4/1/25.
When we met, Brennan indicated that only about $95,000 had been drawn down, which was about 50% of the contract amount. So it looks like they've only done half of the work. The other half would be billed out in the second year. And I can't see a reason why we would even offer any kind of an amendment on the amount of the contract. It's
There is nothing else asking for to change
right.
other than the date.
The amendment would just include a change of date.
Delay in the date of the reappraisal work. So
Okay.
that is it.
All right. Any other questions? Brennan, go ahead.
So I just wanted to comment. I did just kind of notice in the motion sheet here under item 5, it's a motion that says stipulated in the lister's request to the select board. And I had some previous email conversation with the lister's office about my concern with the second piece of what they are requesting, which is kind of a short-term request that they have information by June 20th of this year, which is next week. And my comment was, I don't think that's really an appropriate thing to be asking in an extension that was really looking out at a year from now, or April 1st of 2025. So I had not included that in the draft that is with council right now that I crafted, and they're kind of reviewing and editing. So I guess that's my position, is that's really not appropriate to have language requesting something within a week's time of today, when we're really talking about the bigger picture, extending this out for a full year. And I know from email threads that have gone on here over the last couple of days that KRT is aware of the time requirement of the listers for those open permits. I believe they're done, and we're really kind of hung up on a technical issue right now that's plagued the project with a laptop in the lister's office, not being able to communicate with KRT. So again, if I'm agreeable that we should be doing this. This seems like the best outcome we could have found, with KRT being agreeable to just extending this work. And I would just ask the motion reflect that second piece is not in anything that I've crafted or anything the council's reviewing.
Go ahead, Cheryl.
So I've exchanged with Brennan an email regarding this as well. And my reason for including that, and I'm willing to concede on this, was because the listers need to get work done for the July 3rd abstract. And we need the data that they perhaps have, and we need to confirm that they do have. With that said, just a quick correction on the laptop. That is KRT's laptop that they set up with our server so they could access the database. And that laptop worked adequately for many, many months. And something happened somewhere right in the end of May that cut off their access. And we have been diligently working on fixing it, all three teams, the KRT IT person, the town's IT group, and Patriot Properties, who own Accessbro Software's IT people. And they've gone over everything to try to figure it out. And so this has been unfortunate, but just to be clear, it is not a Lister computer, and that whatever they wanted at KRT, we set it up. We, meaning the town of Norwich, through our IT vendor, have set up everything they've needed. Just for some unknown reason, the laptop is not responding to what needs to be happening. So I just wanted to be clear there.
Okay, thank you. All right, any other comments or questions? Roger, go ahead.
Yes, so it's certainly deja vu, right? So last time when we were working on this contract, you know, I think there was, I at least had some insistence that deliverables be spelled out as part of a work schedule or whatever the appropriate contractual term was for that. I think also that council had other language, right, that they wanted to have. For several reasons, objections from the listers and the vendor, both of these things didn't materialize in the contract. Would it be a good idea for these things to materialize in this amendment? And more broadly, I would like an answer to Marcia's question, which is, how are we ensuring that this work is going to be monitored and get done?
Do you asking me, Roger, or Pam?
Well, first I'd like to say that I don't find trying to assign blame very helpful at this juncture. We need to be supportive of the listers, and we need to find solutions. And so
Can I clarify my comment, if I may?
no,
I was not looking.
Please allow me to finish.
I don't think you can characterize my comment with a loud.
Roger,
Mute him.
one person at a time, please. We need to find solutions. We need to be supportive, and you're implying that the listers have not been monitoring what's been going on. I don't think that's accurate. The town manager said he has taken a hands-off position up until now. Perhaps the town manager will be more involved, and that will help give you some assurances that things will be done in a timely manner.
Okay, so I would like answers to the two questions. One, would a schedule with contractual deliverables that was rejected as a solution last time be a part of this contract extension? That's one question. Two, if not that, what can be done to ensure the proper monitoring? Because that may or may not have happened this time, because we're here on June 13th talking about an extension for filing something that needed to have been filed, right? So I'm asking for accountability, and I would like to have some follow-up on these two questions.
The answer to your first question is no. The only amendment will be to the final date of the reappraisal to 2025. As far as the monitoring, I think that's something that the town manager and the Board of Listers needs to work on to find a way to work with KRT and make sure that things are going to happen for the next grand list. Because it won't happen this year. Cheryl?
I would add that the Board of Listers have monitored and have stayed on top of the work coming from KRT and monitoring it and anticipating some concerns. If you read our lister minutes, if you had attended meetings, if you reached out to any of the listers, we would share any information that the select board individuals would like to have. We're always here for the most part. And I would say that the contract, I've gone back over many an email exchange, and I'd like to be sure that what Roger has stated is accurate so that there isn't a misunderstanding on how the contract was agreed to and crafted the last time, and whether or not the listers rejected anything that was being proposed, because this was in the hands of the town manager at the time, and the RFP that went out was in the hands of the town manager at the time. So we were not, the listers were involved in receiving the RFP responses, but we were not involved and were not allowed to put in wording that we wanted in the RFP when it was sent out. We were denied that opportunity.
I'm not talking about the RFP, I'm talking about the contract. Like this board, I especially, so I know my own mind, so I will speak to my own mind and my memory, and certainly I know that it will be recorded of what I said. I had asked, because I foresaw this moment, knowing the lister's existing relationships with assessors, right? I had asked for contractual deliverables assigned to calendar dates. That was not added. So I'm just now asking what can be done. I'm not talking about the RFP. I'm talking about the contract. There was also some other advice from legal counsel, right? That was rejected. The vendor did not want us to proceed with that. So we signed a different contract than this town proposed. But Pam has made it clear that the only thing that's changing is the date, a year with a possibly, in my mind, flawed contract. But hopefully now Brennan is involved and we can rely on his work, which is new and appreciated.
I would add that in an exchange with Brennan, I included some deliverable deadlines in an email that I thought was important in order to get more deliverable deadlines included. And when I get the when I get a draft of the amendment, I would willingly look for ways to include more deliverable deadlines if the town manager also is including that as his desire, and town council.
Thanks, guys.
Okay. I saw Brennan's hand go up. Brennan, would you like to speak?
Well, I just want to comment that, Pam, you haven't seen the draft that is being discussed with council right now. So there are actually more than just one deliverable date there, but that's been vetted as the contract reads. In the section 7 of the current contract, we do have dates that I believe are statutory days in 2024 when these items were due. Obviously, those were not met. Those are the dates that we are looking at, including as of 2025, these same dates are going to apply for the final deliverables. I think where we went awry here this year was that we didn't have a process to get to those final date deliverables. And that's something that we will have to do better with next year. Again, I think we'll have a fair amount of time to make sure we have everything completed and agreed to before we get to the final deadline and are rushing to accommodate that. So that's I think what we will see in this amended contract, the second amendment to the contract.
Okay, thank you. Cheryl, do you want to speak to why?
Hello? Hello?
I'll get to you, thank you. Do you want to speak to why the contract called for them to finish the reappraisal in 2024?
Well, the RFP that went out gave an open option as to which grand list date we would look at when a response came back, knowing the number of towns reappraising and the limited number of firms available and their schedules. We anticipated that it could be later than April 1st of 24. And we had that as an open-ended option in the RFP. When we had the one response that came back, they were willing to commit to 4/1 of 24. So that was what was moved forward with. And as Brennan said, the deliverable deadlines that are in the contract are statutory, which is important, but what isn't in the contract as a deliverable are some of the items prior to the statutory deadlines, which they need to be more prompt about in going forward.
Okay, so what you're saying is the listers were open to not having it done in 1 year, but it could have been done in 2 or 3 years. KRT was the one who said they would do it by April 1st of 24. And so they have not met their obligation that they
Committed to.
to. Right, okay. All right, Marcia?
Yeah, I was unfortunately in the middle of this in December of 22, which was right before Brennan was hired. And so I'm aware of the painful back and forth between the attorneys and the listers. And I guess I would like going forward to make sure that we do have some sort of better expression of deliverable timeframes, and that we, the board, be kept apprised of what's going on.
Okay, thank you. I'll ask Brennan, do you think those are things that should be in this amendment? As you said, I haven't seen what's been drafted, so I'm not sure exactly what you mean by more than just the extension to 2025 is in
Yeah,
there.
it's a little more complex than that, but I think the gist of what we're trying to do is make sure that the statutory dates in 2025 that we're extending this to have the deliverables ready to go well before we get to those dates. And I might suggest, I can look at again what has come back from the council and suggest maybe there's something that we do, without creating a very complicated timeline of deliverables, which I had not intended to do. It becomes difficult. So we could certainly request potentially monthly or quarterly updates from the listers that would give the town manager and the select board, I guess, an idea of where the work stands along kind of the next 12-month period, or that's just an idea, but that would seem like a way to keep everybody informed. And if we get to, 3 months or 6 months before the end of the new agreement and we're feeling like we're still lagging behind, or this sense of urgency is not there, we would at least have some reasonable time to react to that.
Okay. All right, well, at this point, what we're asking for is a motion to authorize the town manager to work with town council and the listers to draft an amendment to the reappraisal contract. We can eliminate the other language that Brennan would like us to take out. But, at this point, I'm asking the board to authorize our town manager to do what is necessary to get this reappraisal amendment done. and done in a way that he feels that we'll have a good outcome next year. So is there any other discussion, any questions? Any comments? Not seeing any, I would entertain a motion.
I move to authorize the town manager to work with town council and the board of listers to draft an amendment to the reappraisal contract with KRT.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All right. If there's no further discussion, I'll call for the vote. Priscilla, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mary, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
Roger
Yes.
and Marcia,
Yes,
and I'm a yes. It's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Thank you.
Okay. Number 6, DPW request for Olcott Road Bridge. We have an email in the packet from Chris Kaufman to the town manager, along with his departmental request for spending. So I think what I'd like to do at this juncture is ask Brennan to give us a little bit of an update, because we've gone round and round on the funding aspect of this. And so maybe we should talk about the funding first. And then we can talk about any other questions that you have. So Brennan, you want to give us a little update on that?
Sure. So as you read in Chris's memo, we received 3 bids for the project, the lowest being $58,000 from Winterset Incorporated. Chris's suggestion and recommendation is that we contract with Winterset to do this work. And I've been in contact with the residents' family related to kind of the complexities of how this work will get done and the timing of this, which may require that bridge be closed to motorized traffic for a period of time. And so there's some logistical complexity there that I am working through, just so folks are aware, and I think it can be successfully managed. As far as the funding goes, in Chris's request here, he was hoping to use monies out of his operating fund that are going to expire here at the end of the fiscal year in a couple weeks. In looking further at that request, I think we determined that it was really difficult to try to carry operating funds across a fiscal year date. And even though we have the funding now, as of July 1st, when we would expect from there forth, we would probably be receiving invoices, we can't really commit those monies in any way that our auditor or our finance director would like. So the suggestion is to change this funding piece a little bit from what Chris has put into the memo and into his sheet. We would be looking at just committing that $58,000 or a not to exceed $58,000 from the designated bridge fund, and that would not require us to worry about kind of fiscal year dates. We would just have money coming out of a designated fund when we need that money, which is likely going to be early in fiscal year 25. So I think the motion that is on the motion sheet captures that we are no longer trying to pull this from 2 different pools of money. It's just coming from the designated fund. I'm happy to answer questions about that.
All right, thank you, Brennan. Are there any questions?
So
go ahead.
so I'm sorry, Brennan, I just want to understand what you just summarized. Because it's so close to the end of the fiscal year, you don't necessarily want to take it from effectively operating. You want to take it from a reserve fund, which is.
Well, I think Chris's initial hope was to use the operating funds before the end of the fiscal year.
Right.
But I think it's become evident that we're not going to have the work completed in the next 3 weeks. So therefore, we really don't have a mechanism to carry operating funds across a fiscal year that our auditor would approve.
Even if they billed us in June, I guess it's work performed. In the
Yeah,
fiscal.
as Pam mentioned, we've gone through some, we've researched this pretty thoroughly, and everybody feels the cleanest way to do this is out of the designated fund, and the operating funds, if they're not used, are going to go back into the grand list as
Right.
surplus, or the general fund as surplus.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
I didn't understand. Thank you.
All right, great. Thank you, Roger. Any other questions? Okay, I don't see any. I would entertain a motion.
I move to accept the bid from Winterset Incorporated in the amount of $58,000 and to fund this expense from Fund Number 41, DPW Bridge Reserve Fund.
Thank you, Mary. Is there a second?
Second,
Thank you, Marcia. Okay, there are no other comments or questions. I'll ask for the vote. Priscilla, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes,
Roger?
Yes.
Marcia?
yes.
And I'm a yes, unanimous. Great, thank you very much. So Brennan will work with the homeowner to work out the logistics of access during the construction phase. And hopefully that will work out smoothly. Okay, number 7, the Solid Waste Committee Transfer Station Fee Proposal. And I see Andy made it, which is wonderful. Thank you. Congratulations on the graduation tonight. Okay, so we have a nice package in the packet from the Solid Waste Committee explaining to us what they're proposing. It's very comprehensive, very thorough. And I guess the first page beyond the title page basically sums up their recommendation to raise the sticker fee from 35 to 40. Do not change the trash coupon fee and do not change the construction and debris rates. Like I said, it's very comprehensive. There's a lot of information here. They've looked at the costs and done a lot of analysis over several years. So I would ask if anyone has any questions about the information they've provided. Priscilla?
Just a couple. It was a wonderful package. Do we have a schedule of C&D rates? Is it, I'm just not looking on the website or something. Is that why?
Come up there.
Yes, please.
Yeah. So if you'd introduce yourselves, please.
I'm Jordan Muller, Norwich.
Andy Shear.
Thank you.
To answer your question, there is a fee schedule that was last updated in 2022. And so that's the one that
For C&D.
for C&D. Yeah. And so that's the most recently updated.
Do you feel comfortable that those rates are current enough for today's cost?
I think so. I mean, given what we saw over the last couple years, the way it's being managed by Paul at the transfer station, they have had on average over the last handful of years about a $1,100 surplus averaged over the few years. So I think they're covering their own costs.
Okay,
For the C&D.
so we're not subsidizing the C&D. We're actually seeing a little bit of a profit there that covers some of the other costs.
Exactly.
Okay, great. All right, Priscilla.
I have one other little question. Compost hauling, is that just the food waste or do we still do leaves? We don't do Christmas trees anymore.
Correct. Yeah. Do you want to answer?
I think that's the food waste. I don't know.
Just the food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that-
Thanks.
All right. Any other questions or comments? Marcia?
So, hi, guys. Good job with the packet. It looks like the increase is maybe $10,000 and with a $5 increase per ticket or sticker, that looks like we have to sell 2,000 of them. Do we sell 2,000 of them?
We sell 2,000 trash coupons. For stickers, we sell about 1,200. And that was the number we used for the projections.
Okay. And, okay. And so historically, the town has aimed to achieve 80% coverage of expenses. Looks like this is gonna drop to like closer to 70. So maybe the board, just note to Brennan, maybe we need to think about this in the future for budgeting, do we want to cover 30% of the transfer station costs in our budget? If needed.
Right, I haven't looked at their budget to see how they're coming in, as far as where they're hitting on the numbers. Is that pace?
That's pace.
That's
Yeah,
what
pace
pace
is coming in pretty good this year. Yeah.
So that would be year to date.
Okay, yeah, the
No,
pace.
pace is, so year to date is the one before it, the column before.
Oh, okay, wait a minute, sorry. Well, pace is your estimate.
Yeah, pace is a projection of the full year.
So, the last numbers we got were May 21st from the finance office
Mhm.
of most recent things. So we used that calculation to sort of extrapolate kind of where we're coming in.
Sure, go ahead.
Was it just last June that they started giving no discount for the second car when you got a sticker?
I think 2023 was the first year.
So that'd be last year. Yeah,
No,
this is 2024. I'm sort of
it
remembering.
was fiscal year 23.
Fiscal year 23. So
Which began in July 1 of 2022.
yes,
So it was 22 into 23 that they increased that. But it still says on the town website that it's 35 and
Five.
Five. And I went to register 2 cars and was asked for a check for $70, which was kind of surprising because I had looked at the town website and was taken aback that it wasn't current.
I heard a number of people at the dump saying, "Fuck."
Yes, it is quite,
So whatever we decide, whatever you decide here, we should post it like explicitly on the website.
Yeah.
I,
yeah,
I agree.
I think there are lots of changes that we over time would like to make to sort of upgrade a lot of the things that we have on there.
But we haven't seen the number of stickers go down. I mean, it seems, yeah, well, that's the good part.
Stickers did not go down.
Because it seems as though when the crash coupons go up, then people somehow, I don't know.
Go somewhere else.
It goes-
Somewhere else.
Yeah.
I can guarantee you I'm going to register 2 cars this year. But we'll see.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that was one of the reasons why we decided to stick with the stickers increase versus the trash coupons. Because when you purchase trash coupon, people start throwing things in recycling, contaminates recycling stream. They might start going to Lebanon. So we actually found over that year when they jumped up the price that they didn't actually get more revenue. It was really almost flat or even a little
Yeah,
bit
that
lower
was in there.
because people were creatively disposing of things.
So with the increase to the sticker, people know that it's just $5 per car and that they're not going to see
Per bag.
other increases throughout the year. So you went with this for simplicity and for clear with the residents that it's just a small increase.
Right. I mean, I think there were projections, if you were to go up 10, you could look at that and see, but I think,
It's in there.
Chris and Brennan really felt, strongly, and, we agree with them that helps keep pace because, Casella's fees are constantly going up, all sorts of other things. So I think it just made sense for us to sort of recommend that, we're trying to keep pace with those increases that we're always seeing,
So it becomes a fixed cost, which is easier to identify.
right? And you said it's like a one time.
Yeah, it's one time.
Any other comments or questions? Roger, go ahead.
Yes, I'm always interested in how committees are working with town staff. So did anyone ask you to do this?
Well, the select board also.
Well, the reason that the solid waste committee did this work was because when I brought up the topic, Brennan said he thought that this was a good project for the solid waste committee to do in concert with the town staff. And so I reached out to Andy as chair of the solid waste committee and asked if they would be willing to do this work, and they were very eager to help out. So I think there's been some really good cooperation.
Yeah, it's very helpful.
Okay, that helps. So Brennan, Andy contacted Barry directly, and Barry provided these figure data that seems to possibly have been represented or presented differently to the board. Can you explain a little bit of the workflow? Was it a workflow that was successful? is this a good example of like how committees can work with town staff, or is there something that you would like to tweak about it that would make it more successful or easier for town staff workload? I'm just like, obviously it's good work, but I'm curious about,
Yeah, I think
I'm
this,
interested about the collaborations.
Yeah, I'd like to pose that question to Brennan.
Sure.
Brennan, if you would tell us how the process went from your end.
Well, I think it went well. I appreciate the work that Andy and Jordan have done on this. I think this is a great example of kind of collaboration between a committee and a working group. So in this case, that involved the finance director and myself as the town manager, and Chris Kaufman as the DPW director, and Paul Albee as the transfer station lead. And I think Andy and Jordan had reached out to each of us. I think we actually had one group meeting there early on where we talked about with Barry and I at least. So yeah, I think the end product here is a very thoughtful, I think very concise, bit of information about where we are and rates, and I think it worked well and could be a model for future work with committees.
Okay, great. Thanks so much.
I had one other comment too, kind of related to the second sticker. We also have I don't think it's an often occurrence or occurs often, but it does happen where we have folks coming who would like to replace a sticker that was either lost or maybe it was on a car that was sold. And I know our lead transfer station attendant would like to kind of clarify the town's position on that. I don't know if that's a select board or if that's something the town manager should just determine. I think, at some point, it's not a real cost of the sticker if there's proof that one was purchased within the year it was good for. I think it could be a dollar replacement maybe would be a reasonable figure. And, certainly I don't think we'd want to charge somebody $40 if they said, hey, I bought this, but I put it on my car and then I sold the car 2 months later and now I need a new sticker. So if that's agreeable, again, the stickers, I think, very researched and they cost 70 cents. So it's not like we're making money on that, but I also think that would be a fair way. And we just really need to let the lead attendant know what the policy is, and then he can go from there. So does that make sense?
I thought that was our policy, that we charged $1 for a replacement sticker.
I believe it is not. There's what we do and what we do sometimes, and what we often do. I think it would be nice tonight if we say, if that's what we want to do, it's $1 for a replacement if they can prove, if the resident proves they purchased an original sticker within the current year, then we'll make that so.
Well, I know Paul writes down the sticker number and the name of the person who bought it. I don't know what happens to those records, if he keeps them at the transfer station or if they get turned in to somebody, but there should be a record of purchase of a full sticker. So
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think there is. I think really the question is, should he be charging $40 if somebody comes in and says, I lost my sticker, to get a new sticker? Should he be charging $1 because we have proof that there was a sticker purchased? And I agree, there are records of who has purchased them and when, as long as somebody can kind of give us an idea of when it was. It would be a manual process, I think, to look through the written records. So some work and complexity involved.
Okay, point taken. Well, since we published this list, I guess maybe we should adopt this as part of our approval tonight to, if we're going to approve the recommendation from the Solid Waste Committee, we could also add this $1 replacement of lost or misplaced stickers or whatever we want to call it, but it would be a replacement fee of $1. The other thing I would like us to do at some point is explore ways to deal with the recommendation from the auditor that we fix the issue of cash at the transfer station. And I have suggested to Brennan that maybe we could look into doing credit and debit cards there. And go to either credit and debit credit or debit card or a check and get rid of the cash aspect. Because the auditors will not audit the transfer station as long as we have a cash aspect there without a way of guaranteeing that all cash comes to the town bank account. So are there any other questions or comments about this? Mary, go ahead.
Yes, I'm just wondering if the, this different topic that you brought up about, getting rid of the cash basis would also need a bit of study as to what would be practical. So, it may be, another agenda item and maybe another tranche of excellent research and cooperation.
I think that's a great idea. So, not sure the solid waste committee is the right committee to do that, but maybe.
That would be something to be worked out as a separate agenda item to work out how it would be done,
But I'd just like to see that significant deficiency or whatever they call it, weakness, go away from our audit report.
Yes, I agree.
Okay, any other questions or comments? If not, I would entertain a motion.
All right, I'm going to try it. I move to approve the transfer station fee proposal as submitted by the Solid Waste Committee and authorize the town manager to implement the new fee schedule as of July 1st, 2024, which will be posted on the town website and at the transfer station, and also to implement a $1 replacement fee for lost stickers.
Friendly amendment?
Sure.
We don't have a second yet. Would you like to second it first, Marcia?
Sure, I'll second it. Friendly
Okay.
amendment is replacement fee for stickers lost within the calendar year, the same
Okay.
calendar year.
For stickers lost within
The same
calendar
calendar year.
year.
Actually, it's a fiscal year, Marcia.
Whatever.
Same
Yeah.
fiscal year.
Be the same fiscal year because it's July 1 to June 30. Okay, that's a great amendment.
Yep. Thank you for that. I accept that.
Okay, great.
I accept it as a second.
Sure, you can accept your amendment as a second. All right, I'll call for the vote. Priscilla, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.
Roger,
Yes.
Marcia,
Yes.
and I'm a yes, unanimous. Okay, great. Well, thank you very
Thank
much
you.
for all the work you did and for
Great
coming
work.
tonight.
Thank you.
And we'll get that schedule redone and hopefully get it up on the website by July 1st.
Okay.
Great. All right, thanks.
All right,
Thank you
thank
so
you.
much.
Okay, that was number 7. Now we're on to number 8, the police department request for new bulletproof vests.
Which they want to get rid of surplus property.
Well, that's number 9. Number 8 is the ballistic vest.
Came out funny either.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions on this? I did look back at what the chief was saying here, and we do have a 0 budget for ballistic vests. So it appears to have been wrapped into fund number 21, which is the Police Special Equipment Fund, which has, as of the end of March, had $3,326. There will be a $30,000 appropriation in the next fiscal year. So there will be adequate funds. And the chief also says that we could also realize some money from the Leahy Bulletproof Vest Partnership if we act quickly. So are there any comments or questions on this, or should we go straight to a motion? Marcia, was that your hand going up?
No,
Oh,
ready for a
okay.
motion.
Okay, want to make it?
I move to accept the bid from, where is it?
Yeah. I didn't put that in because I was struggling to figure that out too.
Is it NASPO?
No, where is it? Brennan, can you help?
Yeah, let me, let me pull this up as well here.
Just says, it says a
I believe it
NASPO.
is. I believe it is actually the NASPO contract.
Yeah.
A bid from the NASPRO contract?
Or NASPO. I believe there's only like one way to procure these vests, if I understood it correctly, within the state. So I think that would be where we would have to go to get this type of specialized equipment.
I think
Is
it's
that
the
on-
National Association of State Procurement Officials.
Yeah.
So NASPO,
Yeah.
what was the amount? Anybody have that?
4770.
4770.
I move to accept the bid from NASPO in the amount of 4770 to purchase 3 ballistic vests with funds from
It'd be Fund 21. Fund
um,
21, which
yeah.
is police special equipment.
okay, so under here where it says fund is 155000584 is not right.
No, it's Fund 21, the police special equipment fund. They don't have any money in that line item.
So that's right, Brennan?
I didn't research that. I think, I mean, to be honest.
If you look in your town report, that line item has a 0 budget. And
That's what it says.
Yeah, I don't think Matt will be terribly concerned. I think he again didn't have money where it probably should have been, which was in that best line. So a special equipment line would work for him.
Okay, so ballistic vests with funds from Fund 21 is outlined in the request from the police chief.
well, he mentions the special equipment fund, and that is the number of the special equipment fund. That funding appears to have been added to the special equipment designated fund, is what he says in paragraph 2, and that is fund number 21.
I'll second it.
All right, thank you. Okay. Any other questions or comments before we vote? Priscilla?
I'm just confused about the amount we're asking for, because if we're gonna draw down $2,385 from the Leahy Bulletproof Vest Partnership,
So
I don't,
Yeah, go ahead,
if I
Brian.
may. So I think that is the intent, is to go after a grant through that fund that would help offset our costs. I think we would still need to procure the vests, and then it would be a reimbursement. And I don't know that that is a guaranteed reimbursement. So I think, as the chief mentions in his memo, that is his intention. But I would suggest, the money is going to go out. If we can get reimbursed at some level, we will do so. But I'm not sure it's 100% guaranteed that money will come back to us.
Okay, thank you. Yeah,
So-
that would be a best case.
so we're
scenario.
asking for up to $4,770.
Right.
Oh, up to, can we amend, friendly amendment of that?
I'll accept that.
Oh, thank you.
And then
And
up to.
Mary,
I'll accept- Yes, I'll accept that also.
all right. All right,
In-
great.
In the past, I believe the guaranteed grant was through passive, but I'm sure the chief has looked into that option as well.
Yeah,
Yep.
it may come through passive, but it's the Leahy Bulletproof Vest Partnership. So hopefully we will get some of this back. But I think that makes sense to say that we are accepting the bid of up to $4,770. Okay, any other questions or comments before we vote? Seeing none, Priscilla, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mary, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
Roger?
Yes.
Marcia,
Yes,
and I'm a yes, unanimous. Great, thank you. Okay, number 9 is the police department request to sell surplus surplus equipment, sorry. So he hasn't given us a list of what he has proposed here, but I would assume that the list will be created, and if there's anything in our list of assets, that it would be taken out of the asset list so that our list is correct. So are there any other questions or comments? Roger, go ahead.
Yes, I have a question. So in this in the memo, the chief says, I recognize the disposal of pretty much anything beyond today's lunch requires authorization of the legislative body. So I guess my question is that true, right? Like, you know, does this actually require our authorization? You know, is this something that could just be the affairs of his department? Is he to check in with his manager? I mean, perhaps, and this is me speculating, town staff feel as I do lately, which is that we are making motions to authorize things that are not necessarily our bailiwick or prerogative, that it's great to be informed, but maybe the town manager and his employees can conduct this business. So I just wanted to, I wanted that is both humorous, that is a humorous phrase, but then also I think there's something to it. So
I think what the board has to authorize is anything that is sold from the capital equipment list. I think these minor things, you know, if they're not on the capital equipment list, it probably doesn't need to come to us. Brenna, do you have an
Well,
opinion on that?
I think it was brought to the board, again, without a lot of specificity, just to get a blanket approval that we have town assets here that the chief would like to dispose of. And I think that's what he's looking for at this point, is just kind of a blanket. Yes, we agree that you have a lot of stuff that's accumulated over the years that you haven't been using, that you won't be using. We'd like to move it. Whether that's something I'm authorized just to say, chief, sell this stuff or give it away or whatever we need to do, that's fine. I think in the past, and again, maybe because they were police cruisers and that was a capital piece of equipment that did need to come to the board as approval. So maybe a miscommunication there, or just a lack of awareness. I think in any event, I think what the chief is asking of the board tonight is fairly straightforward, and it's just to acknowledge that he'd like to do some spring cleaning there and clear out some stuff that's not being used. Happy to take that and supervise it as the town manager from here on.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if it, you know, if he wants to sell a pair of handcuffs, that it would require board approval. So I'm thinking that if there's something that is capital equipment, it should come to us. But if it's, you know, smaller items, I don't see the board needing to be involved. Is that the way others are thinking too? Mary?
I could see the logic of it, that the taxpayers paid for all this stuff in the first place, so maybe, you know, we should acknowledge that. I mean, it's almost like, I don't know if we want to make a policy, but some kind of procedure that we agree that probably in every department, there might be some surplus, some equipment that is no longer being used. I mean, it could be, you know, it could be more formal. I don't know if it needs to be. I also I trust the discretion of the chief, but also might depend on what it is and what members of the public think about what it is and when it sells and so forth. So it's probably fine.
Okay. Anyone else? Priscilla?
I think it's nice to learn that he's got stuff he doesn't want, the minor stuff, and he wants to sell it, but I don't think as from an informational point of view, that's great to hear, but I don't think we need to approve it. I think he should be able to just do it. I mean, look what he's mentioning.
I know.
Car
That's what-
parts.
Yeah, that's why I said, you know, if he wants to sell handcuffs that are extra, I don't think we need to weigh in on that.
Hello.
So, yes, go ahead.
I think that there's nothing in the financial policy I can see quickly, and I'm just thinking maybe that's something that we can address when we go through policies. But probably all you would really be concerned about was that the money went back into a particular, maybe a general account or something. And maybe it is up to $1 limit, that sort of thing.
Okay, so maybe that's in the purchasing policy. Does that make sense? Purchasing,
I don't know that it makes sense for purchasing.
Opposite of
I mean,
purchase.
disposal. We don't
right,
don't have anything about disposal.
okay, well, we can look at that and see where that might fit best.
I have one more comment, Madam Chair.
Certainly, go ahead, Mary.
Just wondering if the police chief would feel more supportive if we, go through this motion.
Okay, all right. Well, if there's no other discussion, oh, I see, Brennan, you had your hand up. Go
I
ahead.
was just gonna say, I think the chief just wants the green light from somebody to proceed. So I don't think he'd feel, if the board feels, hey, this really isn't our purview, the town manager just manage this, and that's just the agreement that comes out of tonight, that's fine. And if a motion wants to be made, that's just as good.
Well, he was asking for a motion to authorize the chief of police, and my motion says that we authorize the town manager because we don't authorize your employees to do things. So we authorize you and you can delegate. So if someone would like to make the motion.
Where will we appropriate the
Well, I
proceeds?
put that in there in the event that someone wanted to make that stipulation. If you don't want to make that stipulation, we would eliminate that. I mean, do we want money to go back into the special equipment fund? Do we want it to, there may be some other line items in his budget where that money would be beneficial. Because he does have other equipment expenses.
Could it be appropriated to whatever fund the police chief wants in his department?
Or we can leave it up to the town manager and the finance department and just say that it would be most beneficial to the town, period.
Period. Okay, I'll move that then.
Okay, go ahead.
I move to authorize the town manager to dispose of Norwich Police Department surplus equipment identified by the chief of police as no longer needed in a manner most beneficial to the town, period.
Okay. All right,
I'll second that.
thank you, Mary. Okay, any other questions or comments before we vote? Seeing none. Priscilla, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mary,
Yes,
Roger,
Yes.
Marcia,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Unanimous. Great. Okay. All right, on to number 10, the Shared Energy Coordinator, formerly known as the IREC, the Intermunicipal Regional Energy Coordinator. We're now calling it the Shared Energy Coordinator, or SEC. So they are proposing that we stay with the same amount that we've paid every year, $30,670. Are there any questions or comments about this agreement? I have one. If not, oh, go ahead, Marcia.
I'm just thinking, I'm wondering if we're paying the lion's share of this. And I'm wondering if we get that much benefit. I know we get some benefit, but is it?
All right, you're stealing my question. If you look at the funding,
Yeah.
Woodstock pays $8,000 more than we do. I did the math and we pay 28.5% of this budget. And my question is, have we ever received or have we ever even requested an accounting of what percentage of this person's time that we're getting? And are we getting our money's worth? So that's something I'd like to know is there any kind of record of what time this person spends in each town, and what does Norwich get of that person's time?
Good
Roger?
question.
Well, unlike, say, I don't know, the contract assessor, we do get reports regularly from this vendor, from this contract. So we actually are able to articulate what they're doing. So I think Marcia's comment recognizes, I think, that, you know, we do have reporting, we do see the work. I think it is incumbent upon us to ask more questions for him to do more work and foster even more meaningful relationships with our town staff, right? Like, you know, I think right now this coordinator is working with the goals of the Article 36 task force through suggestions, but I think they could play a more meaningful role in capital planning, making some more recommendations on equipment, and, you know, just meeting perhaps more regularly with town staff. So I think it's on us. If we want more out of this, it's on us to be more involved. But I do think there is some accountability there, unlike, as I was suggesting, some other contracts in this town.
We don't have a contract assessor at this time, but when we did have a contract assessor, the assessor submitted monthly reports showing exactly what was done each day that they were here in Norwich. And it was accompanied by an invoice that accounted for the hours.
Sorry, I was referring to the assessment, the reappraisal rather.
Well, we do get invoices from them and we approve those. And so we don't see the actual invoice. Priscilla?
If I could come back to the TRORC stuff and the SEC and how much they're doing for us. Is this the outfit that has still, as far as I know, still not produced the energy audit report? Because if that's the case, it's not being very impressive, whatever they're doing.
I think it does come through TRORC.
I think Brennan's got his hand up.
Brennan, go ahead.
Yeah, no, it does not come through TRORC. So that energy audit through the MERP program that the Two Rivers representative Jeff Grout brought to us a year ago or so was funded through the state Buildings and Grounds, I believe, is the department, and that's where we have hit our time hurdle here. I think Harry Falconer, who's our current IREC representative, had tried, you know, to the best of his ability to make sure that they were focused on getting us that in a timely way. And then again, we heard back from the actual contractor, who was Du Bois and King, that they had been told by the state who were funding this that we were no longer kind of in that top priority of you're going to get yours next week. We went back to kind of the bottom of the list here. So that is not you know, related to the work of Harry. And I know he actually had just joined the meeting and now is gone. So I know he wanted to attend here, so he probably could answer Pam's question about how much time is split between the different towns. I'm fairly certain that because we in Woodstock are kind of the primary funders of this, that we are probably getting the bulk of that focus for the work that they're doing. I don't know that there's any way he would be able to split that up into, I work, you know, 10 hours a week, and this goes to Norwich and this goes to somebody else. I see Linda Gray has raised her hand, and she is on the Energy Committee. So if she maybe would like to speak more to that, Linda, if you're able.
I'm there and I will call on people. Thank you.
So,
Roger, go ahead.
So as a sort of follow up to my own comment about how it's incumbent upon, I think I'm using that word correctly. It requires us to ask more questions if we want to, because I think one of the things you'll find out is that Henry Falconer has spent like at least 60 hours alone on the charge point station, like ensuring that is usable and accessible for electric vehicles, and that is something that I'm privy to because I ask questions about it, right? So I think his time could be, you know, spent in a more directed way, but we would have to work with our town manager to figure out what whose goals are, right? And then also it would be good to call Linda because she is our representative for, I'm not sure if people remember this, but there's a committee that these towns work with. Like, so each of these towns has a representative or representatives, and they work with Henry Falconer on it. So we could in turn ask that governing body or Linda as the representative for more intel and fill in whatever Henry's report doesn't fill in. So that's it. That's my piece. Thanks.
Thank you, Roger. Yeah, I'm a little concerned that this doesn't come through the town manager's office. It comes through the Energy Committee as far as what work that this coordinator has undertaken for the town. So Linda, if you wanted to give us some background information, that would be very helpful.
Yes, thank you very much. And I want to say in answer to your question about whether Harry and the folks who previously had filled this position keep track of their hours town by town, they do. And we are just the steering committee, as Roger pointed out, there's a steering committee for the position made up of a rep from each of the participating towns. And so we highlighted to Harry, it's like, yes, I think all of our towns would appreciate having that information provided to us on a quarterly basis, provided to our select boards. So he's started doing that. I want to speak very highly in praise of Harry and his abilities. And one of the goals that we've had, and for Norwich, it's kind of been hard because over the period of Jeff Grout, when he first came on board, and then Harry, we have had a lot of changeover in our town staff. So it's kind of been hard for the person filling in this role to develop an ongoing relationship with the town manager and the department heads, because those staff have had other issues on their front burners. I think we're at a stage now where we can develop that kind of relationship. My goal has been to have this position be viewed by our town staff as a colleague that they can call on when they have energy questions or they need some advice relating to energy decisions that they're making within their departments. And, and that the Energy Committee is not directing this person at all, that it ought to be the town manager. So that's the goal. I think we're edging closer to that happening.
Okay, great. Thank you. And a quarterly report would be great. I think that's a wonderful idea. Okay. Are there any other questions or comments on this proposed agreement? Linda, go ahead.
And I just want to let you know that Harry sent a quarterly report at the end of April. So you should be seeing them, each quarter, and you have gotten one.
Okay, does that include the number of hours that he's committed to work in Norwich, or just his activities?
We can look, it was in.
I believe that report does not have that. I think his next one will.
Okay, great. That will be a wonderful improvement. Thank you. Okay, any other questions or comments? Go ahead, Roger.
I still think it might be a good idea to provide some kind of feedback about energy-related projects for Henry Falconer and Brennan. I don't know if we've ever had a specific conversation with Brennan about our green energy goals or our Article 36 goals or our goals for procurement, or even, I don't even know if they are town goals. So it might be a good idea to figure out what kind of like charrette that might look like, right?
Well, if you recall, Roger, when we talked about goals for the select board, one of them was to work on a charge for a green procurement advisory board or committee or team or whatever you want to call them, so that we have someone that is helping advise town staff on some of the options that are out there to be more green here in Norwich. And maybe working with our energy coordinator through TRORC. Maybe that's a good person to work with to help develop that charge, and then
Right.
maybe have him as an ex officio member of that team, or whatever we end up calling it. So, yeah, I think that's a good role for that person to help us on that front. And I do have policy review assignments later on the agenda, and that was one of the ones that I was going to bring up, was trying to come up with a charge for that committee and then try to find people to serve on the committee. Okay, if there are no other questions or comments, I would entertain a motion on this agreement.
I move to authorize the town manager to enter into a contract with TRORC for the shared energy coordinator at a cost of $30,670 for the period July 1st, 2024 to June 30th, 2025.
All right, thank you, Mary. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All right, if there are no other comments or questions, I'll ask for the vote. Priscilla, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes,
Roger?
Yes.
Marcia?
Yes,
And I'm a yes, unanimous. Okay, great, thank you. Number 11, the childcare contribution tax. There's quite a bit of information in the packet on this topic. We do need to start collecting this as of July 1 from all eligible employees. According to section 3401 of the Internal Revenue Code, not sure exactly which employees those are. And if we're required to collect 0.44% of the payroll and submit that to the state. And the state has said that the most we could make as an employee share would be 25% or 0.11%. So if you look at the email that Barry sent to the town manager, it says that the town portion would be $6,436. If we use the amount that was in the email, forget where that was. I don't see it here. Anyway, I did a calculation. It came out to $8,681 is the total amount.
Right.
For this.
Yeah.
Brennan, does that comport with what you're getting from Barry? If the town picked up the entire portion, that would be, oh, here it is right here, 1,950,269.
Yeah. Just pale.
so would you do that one more time? If the town pays the entire thing, which they're allowed to do, it would
Right.
cost what?
So we would take the total salary that's here in Barry's email of 1,950,269 and multiply that by 0.44%. And I believe I got $8,681, and it might have been some change. I'll do it real quick. 1,950,269 times 0.00. I'm sorry, it's
I
8,000.
was right once.
8,581.18. 8,581.18 is the total amount that would need to be sent to the state if our salaries came out to that exact amount. So somewhere in the neighborhood of $8,600 would be the full amount. If we shared that with the employees, the town would pay 75%, the employees would pay 25%. So the way I structured the motion on the motion sheet was leaving those percentages blank, because I wanted to understand whether the board felt that the town should pick up 100% of that cost or do the cost sharing of 75-25. Any comments or questions, Priscilla?
It's about a $2,000 difference if we pay just 3/4 and make ding the employees a bit, or we just pay the whole thing. I don't know if this affects the union contract we have, but basically I feel that let's be kind to our employees and just take care of this for them and just pay the whole $8,600 and not get into all this mess.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Mary, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I agree with Priscilla. I tend to think that payroll taxes are pretty regressive. So I especially don't want our, lower wage people, even though it is, wouldn't be a huge amount, but I think it's fair if the town just picks up the whole tab.
Okay. Marcia?
I agree, we should pay it.
Okay. This is something that I would like to see us review on an annual basis when we do the budgeting, just to be sure that it's not becoming a much larger number. Maybe there's an increase in what the state decides is no longer 0.44%.
Okay.
That could start growing. So I'd like to see us review this as part of the budgeting process and even have a line item for that, taking that into account. What are we anticipating for the town's outlay in each budget year? Roger, did you have any comments?
Well, you don't, I mean, town staff can figure out how they want to propose it in the budget. I would just think that they could just sort of incorporate this into one of the many rising costs relating to employees, right? So it's just like healthcare, it's just like any other, I think we're treating this like a fringe benefit. So I don't think we need to see the childcare, we don't need to see this as a line item. We just need to understand that we are going to absorb this as part of doing business as an employer.
Well, how would you put it in the budget if it's not a line item?
I would defer.
We have healthcare, we have FICA, we have all these other things that are deducted as line items, and I brought this up to the budget discussion last year, and the interim finance director said it was such a small amount that no adjustment would be made in the budget, but it's going to be $8,600 coming out of the town coffers to pay this, and I think we need to make sure that we account for that.
I imagine, and I don't want to, suggest or direct town staff, but I imagine you would take this number and split it up amongst each employee, and then you would just see that rise as part of any other, costs that rise, right? And that's just, I'm rejecting the idea that we would have to review this every single year. I would see this as part as the conversation of any other.
Well, if the percentage starts increasing, I think we need to be aware of that. And, as with other taxes, they tend to increase over time. So
Okay,
I just want us to be cognizant.
We've never had a conversation about the rising cost of healthcare. We've never had the conversation about any of these other fringe benefits. So I'm just curious as to why we would be.
Well, healthcare came up in the CBA, and so we did review that. All right, so any other comments or questions before we move to a motion? All right, seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
I move.
I'm sorry, Marcia?
I was going to move.
Okay, go ahead.
I move to collect the child care contribution tax with 100% being paid by the town of Norwich beginning July 1, 2024, as required by 32 VSA. That's the wrong.
That's what it said in the. That's what it said in the guide that we got from.
Yeah, but that's the chapter.
That's all they gave us.
Well,
it's on page 3
no,
of the guide.
I can get it. Don't worry about it.
I'll second as it is.
I'll need to hear it again.
I didn't finish it.
That's what I
Is
thought.
it? Oh,
Yeah,
Just
Is
a
A.
suggestion. You
Yeah.
just put a period after July 1, 2024.
Good. I like it.
yeah.
Okay, all right.
so could you, I have a question, just that, did that include the part of 0% being paid by eligible employees?
No,
So-
she just said 100% being paid by the town,
Okay.
beginning July 1,
That's what I thought I
2024.
heard. I just wanted to be clear.
Yeah.
Right.
Just cross out the clause beginning with and.
Yep, I got it.
Okay, so it's a motion by Marcia and Priscilla, you said you were
I'll second
seconding
it, yeah.
Okay, thank you. All right. If there are no other questions or comments, I will call for the vote. Priscilla, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Roger?
Yes.
Marcia?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. It's unanimous. Thank you. Okay, on to the next item, the approval of the May 22, 2024 minutes. We all have a copy of those in our packet. Any questions or comments? Priscilla, go ahead.
There are two ands up and attending. It lists everybody and Priscilla.
What?
That's all. I mean, not a big deal.
Oh, you're right. Okay, I can fix that before I send it to Miranda. Anything else?
Yeah, on the third page, number 12. Approval of May 8th minutes. Smith requested amendments to the attendance to reflect, I think that should be remote versus in person, not remove.
Okay, well, you're a good editor. Thank you.
Yes, I am actually.
All right, anything else?
No.
Okay, any other comments from other board members? Okay, I would entertain a motion.
I
I
moved,
move,
oh, go ahead.
I move to approve the May 22nd, 2024 minutes as amended.
I'll
Thank
second.
you. Thank you, Mary. Okay. If there are no comments or questions, I'll ask for the vote. Priscilla, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Roger?
Yes.
Marcia?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Okay, great. Okay, the next item is AP warrant. And we have 3 of them in this packet. I didn't get a folder from you today, Brennan, so I guess we'll have to send those around by DocuSign.
Yeah, I wasn't in the office today, so I apologize for not having a hard copy, but we would probably have to send it anyway to get a quorum. So we'll have Ashley send that around tomorrow morning.
Okay,
I was on the list to get the last thing that was sent around a couple of days ago. I never seen it. I just saw Ashley's memo saying
oh,
it's coming.
it was on the policy on,
But I didn't get it to sign. I thought I was
Okay.
supposed to sign it.
Brennan, could
I
you
don't know
look
what
into
happened.
that?
I believe, if I can answer that, I believe Ashley did send it and it was standing with you, Priscilla. So it may be in a spam folder potentially. I don't know.
Oh,
Yeah,
It-
because sometimes
Oh.
those go in spam folders. Yeah.
okay. I'll
It
check.
went
spam.
to
Thank you.
three, we have 3 signatures, so we had a quorum, but I believe
Okay, I'll check.
it was waiting on you.
Right. And
Sorry.
Roger voted no on that, so Priscilla, you would be the 4th signature in the last one. if you
Okay,
could.
well, yeah, because I've been sort of wondering what.
Yeah, look
happened.
in your spam folder because I know some of those things do end up in spam for some reason. But that was the resolution on policy statements and letters of support.
Oh, kind of important.
Yes, and I need to send that off to Mr. Harnish to answer his email. I've not had a chance to do that. Okay, the AP warrants, we have, like I said, we have 3. Are there any questions or do we want to move to making a motion on this?
I move to approve AP warrant number 1133 in the amount of $120,814.91 to be paid from the general fund.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Priscilla. Okay, all right. There are no other questions or comments? Priscilla, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes,
Roger?
Yes.
And Marcia?
Yes,
And I'm a yes, unanimous. Okay, and then the next one.
I move to approve AP warrant number 1131 in the amount of $49,588 to be paid from Fund Number 6 Fire Apparatus Reserve Fund.
All right, thank you. Is there a second?
I'll
Second.
Who got that one? Is it Marcia?
I think Priscilla was first.
Whatever.
Okay,
Okay, all right, all right, call the question.
Well,
You have a question?
I know we have a brand new fire truck. Was this stuff that had to be done on the brand new fire truck or?
I believe
mean,
this is some equipment that we approved the purchase of at an earlier meeting. I don't know the exact
Okay.
equipment.
Sure what it
But
is.
he's been, didn't come fully equipped, and so he's been gradually adding more things that they need. So this is just approving that it is being paid out of this reserve
Yeah,
fund.
okay. I mean, what they're doing, I think is great over there at the fire department. Thank you.
Yep. Okay. All right, I will ask for the vote. Priscilla, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mary?
yes,
Roger?
Yes.
Marcia?
yes,
And I'm a yes. That's unanimous. Okay, and then the last AP warrant.
I move to approve AP warrant number 1132 in the amount of $2,140.69 to be paid from Fund Number 53 Kids Bridge at Huntley Meadow.
Thank you. Is there a second?
second,
Thank you, Marcia. Okay. All right. Priscilla, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes,
Roger?
Yes.
Marcia?
yes,
And I'm a yes, unanimous. Okay, great. All right, now the next thing is correspondence. We received 3 letters from residents, Jenny Barba, Betty Barba, and Priscilla Vincent, expressing their concern about going to Zoom-only meetings. We are not going to do that. We're going to do hybrid meetings, and the state has passed a new open meeting law that takes effect July 1st. That's something that we should probably talk about at our next meeting and make sure we fully understand our requirements. They are changing.
Yeah.
And we also need to complete our select board handbook that talks about how we're going to deal with some of these issues and maybe incorporate the new legislation. We received a letter an email from Tina Rabideau. It says it's from Attorney William Dodge at Downs Racklin Martin PLLC on behalf of New Singular Wireless. It looks like they are changing some equipment on the tower that's on Upper Loveland Road. And this appears to just be informing us. I don't think that they've made a request to the PUC and they're just informing us that this is happening. Okay, then we have the liquor licenses for King Arthur that were approved at the last meeting. And they're in here just for information purposes. We have a report from the town clerk about people who have not re-registered, relicensed their dogs in the town. She's required by statute to submit this list to us. And I would just ask that if anybody sees their name on this list, that they please reach out to the town clerk to try to resolve this. Okay, and then we have the AP warrants that were approved off cycle. Because we were 3 weeks between meetings, the finance office prepared some checks for payments so that we would not be late. And Mary and I signed those warrants between meetings. The next thing is the letter from the Director of Property Evaluation Review approving the 30-day extension for the filing of the abstract. And behind that, we have the lister's request for the extension. So that's taken care of. And that is what we have for correspondence. Any questions or comments? If not, I would entertain a motion.
I move to accept all correspondence.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second,
Thank you, Marcia. Okay, Priscilla, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mary,
Yes,
Roger,
Yes.
Marcia,
yes,
and I'm a yes. Okay, great. All right, the next item is policy review assignments. As I mentioned earlier, we talked about 3 policies that were goals to get reviewed by the select board over the coming year. And I just wondered if there was any interest in volunteering for any of these reviews. We talked about the green procurement, developing that charge. We talked about reviewing the gift policy and reviewing the purchasing policy. And then tonight we talked about maybe looking at which policy might incorporate the disposal of equipment. So, Marcia, you've been working on the select board handbook, so you probably have your hands full with that. But-
actually, I had already worked on the gift policy a lot in the past, so I'm happy to throw that into the mix.
Okay, that would be good. I just didn't want to load you up if you felt like the handbook was enough.
I'm never overloaded.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dangerous statement.
Okay, and then we have the purchasing policy. I actually would like to work with that policy if there's no objection. And then we have the green procurement, and I was kind of hoping Roger might raise his hand on this one. To work with the maybe some people who are on the Article 36 task force, work with our new SEC, Shared Energy Coordinator.
Yeah, I can look at it.
Okay. Well, the first step on that is to develop a charge for that group, committee, team, whatever we want to end up calling it. I'll leave that up to the group. We need a charge that incorporates some of the recommendations from the Article 36 task force, which is where this idea came from. And maybe work with the energy coordinator to help flesh that out.
Yeah, I can. I'll probably talk to Brennan at some point about it because I don't feel. I don't. I'll talk to Brennan about it as well if that's okay with you, Brennan, because
Yeah.
I don't necessarily feel like. I guess I'm just like I'm happy to do it, but I'm cynical on creating a committee that will not. Whose work will not be integrated meaningfully into the affairs of the town, right? So I would like to assess how that would work with Brennan before I put anything. I would like to do some prep work different. Yes, so I can do it.
Okay, and then the other resource might be Jack Cushman, who was the chair of the Article 36 task force. Because this idea came from them. He might be a good resource for you. Just throwing that out there. Marcia, I see your hand. Go ahead.
I was gonna suggest that Roger might look at some towns. I can throw you some town websites that actually have done some work, and why reinvent the wheel if there's some good work out there.
Yeah, that's how I'm feeling. Like I feel like it would be good to see models and then talk to Brennan about
Yeah.
what could be adapted before we spend time pontificating. So yeah, I I don't want to, but I will. Yes, yes, I will do this. It's fine. It's all good.
right.
Thank you, Pam.
Well, we all need to contribute here, and I'm glad that Marcia can send you something that will be helpful.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so that's all I had for that, is just try to get that process rolling. We don't need to make any motions or decisions tonight, just want to keep things going. The next item is the Moore Lane Bridge update, and I'm going to turn to Brennan for that information.
Okay, well, I can tell you that we are, I think, reacting appropriately to the new information that we got at the early part of May, which was that there was noticeable, kind of visual, effluent leaking again down the abutment of the wall of the bridge there, and primarily on the southwest side of the bridge. And so since learning of that, we've had some contact with the state via the DEC Spills Division. We've reached out to all 4 of the contractors that were involved back in 2022. So that includes Stantec, that includes Winterset, which was the contractor that actually installed the current solution. Murray and Masterson, which was the environmental firm that came to the town and did actual testing of the substance. And then Clean Harbors, which was another environmental group that I think had done remediation work back in 2022. So where we are currently, we have requested that Clean Harbors come inspect the bridge in its current state and give us an idea of a cost for kind of an immediate cleanup remediation of what we can see visually on the wall of the bridge abutment. And I will say last week, Winterset came out and met with Chris Kaufman and kind of went up on ladders to try to determine what exactly was happening there with the containment system. And it does look like, especially in that one corner, which is probably the low corner of the bridge, that there is kind of seepage occurring there. So we'd like to get that cleaned up as quickly as possible, obviously, and that would be probably our first step. And then our second step is going to be, I think, more of a longer term, what can we do to contain this in a more permanent fashion than just the cleanup. So I don't have a firm plan for that yet. I think we will have to kind of engage with some experts in the field and see if we can come up with a new solution. And one of those could be, and this has been thrown out, I think, by Chris Kaufman previously, one of those would be a potential to grind down the surface of the bridge, the road, and the kind of failing wooden sidewalk there that's on the south side of the bridge, put in some type of a water impermeable surface there that would not allow water to flow through the structure, which we, again, believe is creating some of this movement within. So that's where we are right now. I see that Peter is here, and we'll probably have some comments as well. I will say I did go out earlier in the week and kind of made my own inspection. I agree with some of the photos that Peter has shared that there is kind of a visible petroleum sheen in a place below that bridge abutment that does really indicate that there is something that is reaching the stream bed, and we want to react to that immediately. And that's, again, why we're working to get Clean Harbors in as quickly as we can to at least do a cleanup there to eliminate that issue for the time being. So I guess that's kind of what I have as a report right now.
Okay, Priscilla?
I just have some questions. It's not clear to me what part of the bridge has the contaminants, whether it's the road surface or the structure itself.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's the structure itself, that I don't know why it would help to grind down the road surface. And I also just wonder, what if we just took the bridge out? Just took it out and you know, do we have to replace that bridge as a vehicular bridge? Could it be replaced as a pedestrian bridge? This is potentially very expensive, and I'm not happy with the idea of just patching, remediating now, remediating a little later. Just, I mean, I'm not, I'm not trying to tell you what to do, Brennan or anybody, but it's just like, how many times are we going to replay this movie? And can we just deal with it very decisively? And maybe that means taking the bridge out.
Yeah, Brennan, go ahead.
So I can answer your first question. I think the second question is something that the town via the select board and the town manager are going to have to come up with as far as the longer term solution. But what I believe has occurred, and I think most of the reports and the facts show this, is that when that bridge was installed with a wooden structure, it was sprayed before the asphalt was laid over it with a substance that helps asphalt adhere. And that is, you know, a petroleum-based product with hazardous materials in it. And that is basically what the substance is containing that is leaking through. So it's not that the asphalt is melting and creating this problem. It's that there is a layer below the asphalt that normally in a road situation would be trapped between the previous layer of asphalt and basically contained. That is because it was sprayed over a wooden structure above a stream, which you know, in retrospect seems like a very bad idea that's led to this, that's what's creating the contaminant that we're now seeing moving through the bridge and down the wall and into the stream. Does that make sense, Priscilla?
Yeah, but it still doesn't answer my question of, it sounds like that's something, as long as that structure stands there, that we need to just get rid of the structure to really actually fix the problem.
Well, that's probably an option. I think at some point here, we're going to have to lay every option we can out there and kind of try to associate some cost and some pros and cons to doing those and come up with a decision. But that is one.
Okay, any other board comments? Go ahead.
Marcia had one too. Do you want to take her first or me?
Sure. Marcia, go ahead.
So I know that we had information about other towns having had these same bridges from that period. Royalton had one. I'm just wondering, Peter's saying no. I just saw an article.
No, sorry, Mark, I don't mean to nod my head, but it was our
Peter?
situation is nothing like Royalton.
Peter?
It's a unique
Peter?
situation. Apologize, Peter. Just want to clear that
The chair
up.
did not call on you, please.
So
Be called on.
I guess I was just wondering if Brennan had investigated whether there was any state help for taking care of this situation.
Right, Marcia, I sent Brennan some articles that I came up with. I found one from June of '89. Ernie Chickatilla gave me one dated February of '89, and then another one in 2018 about the Royalton Bridge.
I have
That
those.
said that the
I
state
have those.
was, yeah, and it said that the state was helping with a creosote issue. I asked Brennan about that, and he said what we have is not a creosote issue, so it doesn't appear as though the state is willing to jump in and help us. But
Well,
it is a design that the state brought to us, so I don't know why they wouldn't be willing to help. Brennan, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I don't think we know that for certain, what the state will or won't do. I think that's part of our process right now, is trying to understand, back in 1989, how did this bridge come to be here in Norwich, which I haven't found any definitive historical other than the press clippings on that. The question of who installed the bridge, who was the contractor that determined they should spray this asphalt adhesive over the wooden structure, would be a question I'd like to understand. And then, you know, I think there are resources, right, depending on which path we decide to take, in which we could ask the state to assist us. But I don't think we know enough about the past history to really be able to say the state is liable and therefore needs to, you know, contribute or needs to pay in full for any sort of remediation. It's not clear at this point what responsibility that might entail.
Right, and if we could get some kind of a grant, even if they didn't say, we'll cover the whole thing, if when there was some kind of grant that can help us with this, but I would like to see us stop putting Band-Aids on it and come up with a real solution. Peter asked me the other day about what had been spent to date, and it was something like $96,000 or $93,000 that we have laid out to date. And so when we make a decision on future expenses, hopefully it will be for a solution and not another Band-Aid. Mary, go ahead.
Two things. I think Neil Fulton might be an informed person, you know, a good person to talk about as to how this bridge was installed. I think that he had some knowledge that it was a special state program or something. And also, if we did move in the direction of replacement of the bridge, I would be in support of having it be fully functional just for emergency purposes. I would not want to cut off that loop to be pedestrian only. So if it went in that direction.
Okay, Marcia, were you raising your hand?
Well, Roger hasn't had a chance, so I'll defer to him, but then I would like to say something.
Okay, I guess I need to look at my computer screen here rather than the TV screen because Roger isn't showing up there. Sorry. Roger, go ahead.
So Brennan, can you, I appreciate the summary. Can you give more of a summary about like how these vendors are like sort of being materialized on the ground? So like when have they last come together? You know, you mentioned 2 environmental agencies, like, is there ongoing testing of the water? Can you just sort of give us an update with more of sort of not line by line, but more of, I want to hear more about sort of how the work is being conducted and materialized and at what pace. That would just, if you can.
Well, I probably don't have the exact dates on the top of my head here. I can say that kind of since early May, when we were notified that there was again kind of visual evidence that something was moving here in the bridge, we have talked via phone, and this is we being Chris Kaufman and I primarily, with the engineer from Stantec that worked on the former bridge project. We had a phone conversation with the representative from Murray and Masterson, which was the environmental firm that was here that did the original testing. And we have had, I was not involved in this one, but we had Winterset actually come out, made a site visit with Chris under the bridge to inspect this. And we currently, again, have a request out to Clean Harbors that's related to several email threads that have gone back and forth to try to employ them to get, again, a kind of emergency cleanup procedure underway. And I haven't heard from them as to when they were coming. It was supposed to be this week.
Okay, so that's helpful. So since May, the Winterset, who've been the people who constructed the structure, have come out to inspect,
Yeah.
and then you have not yet had the cleanup of the remediation happen.
Correct. What we're waiting on right now is Clean Harbors to look at this and tell us, okay, this is going to take us, a day to do, and it's going to cost X amount. As soon as we get that, again, if it's under a certain threshold, I'm going to move forward as kind of an emergency remediation at this point.
Okay. Yes, it would obviously, I think I'm interested in knowing how people are, charged and, how we're actually materially on the ground responding, right? I understand that there's like a lot of, I understand the email exchanges that you describe is very much work. I don't mean to mischaracterize it as anything, but also it's very helpful to know when people are on the ground doing remediation, inspecting the structure, proposing new solutions. Like that is what I think everybody wants to see. So thanks.
Yep. Well, if I can, I'll just say, I think we are acting promptly. There's certainly no effort to slow play this in any way. But again, we have contractors that have schedules and they've been to date very willing to kind of jump back into this and help the town out. So we appreciate that.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks. All right, Marcia, you had a question or comment?
Right now, it seems like we don't have any choice except to do some emergency remediation. But I think that this body has to make a decision pretty quickly, and we need some information. You know, how much is it going to take? Well, first of all, we don't want necessarily remediation. We want correction. And so what's it going to cost for correction? And if correction is going to take a long time or it's ridiculously expensive, how much will it cost to take down the bridge? And I think, you know, we need to have a stepped out plan and maybe some options, because maybe, because this is a big ticket item, if the state isn't going to be able to help us, then we just take it down and close. But I think we need to come up with a plan right away, and you know, simultaneously with remediation for the moment, so that we stop stuff going into the water.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I agree that we need some options here, and they need to be, what are the long-term solutions to getting this fixed once and for all? And if we are to replace the bridge, certainly we have to take the bridge out. So we would need a cost of what it would take, you know, what it would cost to remove it. And then a cost of what it would be to replace it, and what style of bridge are we proposing for the replacement? There are no homes that are impacted by the removal of this bridge. The driveways are on either side of it, so it's not like we would be stranding somebody if we took it out. So yeah, we meet again in 2 weeks. Hopefully Brennan will have more information for us by then. And so if there are no other board comments, I will go to comments from the public. And I'm going to limit those comments to 3 minutes. Peter, I know you've had your hand up for a while. Go ahead.
Sure. Thank you, Pam. And I apologize for interrupting earlier. I think people conflating the Royalton situation with our situation has happened a lot, but it's from my understanding, it's a very unique situation, and that the DEC hasn't seen this in Vermont before, is my understanding. 2 things, well, 3 things. One is I'm very pleased, and I want to thank Brennan. I'm glad we have a responsible party here, a competent town manager. But unfortunately, what Brennan is doing now is cleaning up a mess from the previous town manager. That's the basic truth here. All of the work that Brennan is now having to do had been done, or at least was said to be done last time. And we were told that there was 1 choice, 2 choices. Bridge comes down, or we do this diaper containment system for $62,000. Those of you who are on the board at the time remember this long discussion, and the town decided to go for it, that the containment system was the best option at that time. Containment system worked fairly effectively for 1 year and a little bit. Less than 2 years, it's now failing. We have a toxic site in the center of town, right near Huntley Meadow, right above Blood Brook. It has been the gift that been keep giving. 6 years of contamination, pretty serious contamination of the brook. And so my question is how long are we going to tolerate this at this point? I waited a long time to get anyone's attention, 3 years. It took 3 years for anyone to respond, in spite of multiple video and photographic evidence of serious petroleum-based contamination in Blood Brook. 4 years. So while I'm being patient with Brennan, and I know Brennan's doing a great job, as he is on all fronts, we have a serious situation here. And the last thing I want to say is we've hired Clean Harbors already. Clean Harbors were the people that gave us the plastic sheeting. That lasted less than a week of effective containment. So we're going to hire this company to now come in and clean it up in a day. I think, unfortunately, Brennan, I have to disagree with you. You're not going to clean up this toxic waste site in a day. And it's going to cost some serious money to do that. And you'll hear from them, I'm sure, when they tell you And what do you mean by cleaning it up? Do you just mean cleaning the walls? Do you mean repainting the walls as we did last time to cover it over so it happens again? I understand, and I think Brennan's correct in his assessment of how this happened, but this is stuff that keeps on generating, and it generates in the heat. So it's not as if it's containable. We tried to contain it. You're not containing it. And,
Okay.
and this containment system was quite expensive, and I think you should ask some serious questions because it was supposed to last the life of the bridge.
All right, thank you, Peter.
Thank you.
Jan Lastbeer?
Yes, hi. Just a couple things. One, I really hold the board, somewhat the town manager, but the board to history here for a minute, because this is not a surprise that sometime in May we were notified something was dripping. The diaper that was put on was understood at the time as the basis of a lot of conversation to be a temporary solution, get us through one hot season, say, to give us time to develop a permanent one. So to now say, oh my goodness, look, something's coming out, let's talk about preparing a permanent one, we've lost time. And it's not a surprise. So I don't want us to sort of rewrite history and start from now that this is news. So that's one point. I personally think that it just, I would agree with Priscilla in the sense that this is going to take time. It's going to be expensive. Yank the bridge out. Talk about whether you put a temporary pedestrian thing across and give yourselves time to do it right. Bite the bullet and do it. And thirdly, I would just say, do we have tests, or when will we have water tests that confirm whether children should be playing in the water right outside Huntley Meadow or all the way downstream on Blood Brook? And can we get that assurance for the summertime play in the brook? Thank you.
Okay, Brennan, go ahead if you want to respond to that.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to clarify because I was not here, obviously, in 2022. So I'm hearing Peter say that the promise was that this solution was going to be the lifetime of the bridge. I'm hearing Jan saying this was only supposed to get us through a hot summer and then we'd know. So I'm not sure if other people who were involved back then can clarify which of those, because they're very different interpretations of what that diaper system was going to do. And then while I'm speaking here, I'll just finish. So Jan, I don't think at this point testing of whether there's a contaminant reaching the stream at this moment is necessary, because I think it's being acknowledged. I think there's visual sign that there is. The immediate remediation is a solution to the stream quality, right? The water quality, the safety issue is to make sure that as quickly as we can, we stop that contaminant from reaching. So that's, I guess, where we hope to be in the very near future is there's no more contaminant reaching the water. And then we're closely monitoring that to make sure that it is not hitting the water. So I think that will solve the question of, do we need to test at this point, which I don't know that we do.
Priscilla?
This is actually related. I've been asked to try to, spearhead finding a town health officer, and my reading of what a town health officer would be doing would be engaging actively in exactly this kind of thing and contributing to the discussion and helping out, because they're by statute, the town health officer is involved with groundwater and drinking water and general water quality throughout the town, as well as, septic and floods and pandemics. So we're working on the town health officer, just a comment. Too bad we don't have one right now.
Yes. Well, hopefully we'll have somebody that will apply for the next meeting. I'm looking back at the minutes from previous years, and July 14 of 2021, this came up as a topic for discussion. The Moore Lane Bridge has been dripping into Bloody Brook and needs to be remediated. Durfee met with the DPW director, the planning director, and the interim police chief to discuss traffic options for Beaver Meadow Road, whatever that means. So that, in the last 9 years, that's the first time I can show that it actually came before the select board. And then May of 22, Town Manager Rod Francis said a major focus of the DPW work over the last week has been on the Moore Lane Bridge. This is July of 22. Approved bid for further emergency work on Moore Lane Bridge. Leighton moved second gear to authorize the town manager to approve the bid for clean harbors for additional work to prevent hazardous materials from entering the stream. So there's been work since July of 21 in terms of the board's awareness and trying to come up with solutions. I haven't found, here's the one for 62,000. Leighton moved to authorize the town manager to accept the bid from Winterset to construct a temporary containment system to prevent hazardous materials from entering the stream at the Moore Lane Bridge for an amount not to exceed $62,000 to be paid from the Bridge Reserve Fund. So it was known at the time that it was a temporary containment system.
So,
Roger, you wanted to make a comment?
yeah, and I don't know what I want to sort of talk about Marcia's point, and sort of where we are now. So what are the questions that we're asking these vendors to do? It would be, is like what I'm curious about and learning more about it in 2 weeks when this is actually, we can get an update from you. So are we asking these vendors to modify or improve the existing containment system and to provide remediation, or are we asking them to use their expertise, assuming, you know, they're the qualified vendors with this expertise, to find different solutions to a different set of questions? So I think I'm not sort of necessarily saying, I don't know necessarily. I think they've answered the question, how do we contain and how do we remediate? Like, I don't know if I don't necessarily, have they been asked the question, how do you remove this structure or this material permanently? So I guess I would like to know more about what set of questions they've been asked. Like if they've been asked to do remediation and containment, then I think what this board is sort of getting to is maybe that's the wrong set of questions, and we need to be asking something differently, because the vendors are going to do the work that we ask of them. So,
well, we could do a couple things. Again, we've kind of engaged the people that were involved, or the entities that were involved in the previous efforts to contain this material, feeling that they would have a local knowledge and some expertise here that would be useful. I think, again, the short-term remediation from Clean Harbors is to clean up, to the best of their ability, anything that's currently leaking out of that bridge that's entering the stream. So that is a definitive, we are going to ask them to do that. You know, one thought that's occurred to me is we could send out a publicized RFP for solutions and basically publicize what our problem is and see if we can find other entities that would like to offer a solution with a cost associated with it. You know, we could also, if the board is at the point right now of saying we're not going to solve this problem long term without removing the structure that's leaking this contaminant, we could figure that, you know, if that's the position that we want to take, and I don't know that we're ready to take it right now, but I think that would be something where we would ask for quotes to remove the bridge structure, at least the pieces of it that are leaking the contaminant. And again, that's going to cost money. It's going to cost money to take those to a certified hazardous landfill. It's going to be a costly endeavor. Once we take that step, the bridge, you know, the leaking of the bridge goes away. And then we're left with, well, now we don't have a bridge where historically we have. And then it's a question of, do we rebuild the bridge at additional cost? Do we eliminate the bridge and just go without? You know, we would at least have some time to make that decision.
So can I ask a follow-up, Pam?
Certainly.
So I think it's clear that this is a novel problem. We've had novel solutions that have had mixed success, right? And so I guess, but I think the people who are working it might now be caught up in it right now. So it might do the project some good to do some kind of RFP to get others involved. Obviously, these folks have the best knowledge for remediation, for managing and handling everything about the structure that they created, which was effective for a period of time, right? But so like work with them on that. But then I do think we might, as I think Marcia had suggested, or at least Marcia's comment put it into my head, that we should do some kind of work to get possibly more members of a team. And then, yes, and then see where, and because you even said, like, Chris was wondering if this, if this could be removed in also in a novel way, and then that may also require different vendors. So I guess I would encourage you in the next 2 weeks to explore that coming up at the same time. So yes, but obviously we're all kind of now chatting, going beyond the update that was on the agenda item. So thank you.
Right.
Okay,
So we don't have an agenda item indicating that we would be authorizing the town manager to write up an RFP. So I don't know if it's appropriate for us to take that action tonight. Maybe that's something that we do at our next meeting, and we'll assume that Brennan will have some more information to share with us. But I agree, this is we shouldn't keep throwing good money after bad. We shouldn't keep putting Band-Aids on it. We need to come up with a permanent solution. And if that means we go out with an RFP to have people come in and tell us what they see as a solution and what those associated costs are, I'm in favor of that. It's time to solve this problem. So Priscilla?
I'm sorry to keep
No, it's
beating
fine.
this drum, but if we want something to happen quickly, and I think we need something to happen quickly because this thing is dripping toxic, whatever. In the fastest, most surgical way to remediate the problem is to just take out the poisonous structure that is the bridge and stop trying to diaper it up some more.
Right, but we need to get somebody who has the qualifications to do
Yes.
that work and know what that cost will be so that we can authorize it.
Yes.
So that would be part of the RP. I don't see this as something that we can solve by the next board meeting. It's only 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks away. So we just have to keep making our best efforts. Brennan has gone out personally, gone under the bridge. He's working with the vendors that have been in there. And, I think that we just ask him to continue doing this work and tell us what he has in 2 weeks, 13 days from now. And if we want to put an RFP on the next agenda, then we can do that. Okay, Marcia, go ahead.
So I guess I'm interested in knowing how can they stop the leak immediately and how much will that cost? Number two, presumably I'm thinking of this as a structure with a deck, and I'm thinking of the deck as the problem. How much is it going to cost to remove the deck? And step three, how much is it going to cost to replace the deck?
Yeah, but the deck is the pavement over the wood structure that has been treated with this substance, whatever it is.
My definition of deck is the whole thing that from the core of the earth to the sky is
Right,
connected.
well, we have a deck that is resting on abutments. And I wonder if we could follow Chris's suggestion of taking the pavement off and, taking part of the wood when it sounds like the wood is saturated and it's leaking through the cracks or whatever. I just don't see that as a viable solution, but I'm not an engineer. So I just think this has to be continued at the next meeting. Mary, go ahead.
Mute.
Oops, you're muted.
Oh, sorry, so silly to be muted. Yeah, we've been talking a lot tonight about replacement. You know, the not having the good fall in the brook is essential, but I think this is the first meeting where we've really all started to talk about, let's have a comprehensive solution, and it will, you know, it will be expensive and probably time consuming, but I think that's the path we're on. And it would be wise to keep talking about it at the next meeting to figure out how to, you know, get estimates and so forth.
And I think it may not be an RFP for replacement. I think it's an RFP that doesn't ask for containment and remediation. It asks for any other set of questions, right? Which is, yes. Like,
what is the answer? We don't preconceive the answer. We ask them, what is the answer?
right, because we previously asked them to contain and remediate. So just ask a
Right.
different question or a more appropriate question.
Right. And I recall a couple of years ago when this first came up, Marcia was the one who introduced the idea of just removing the bridge. And that was not the decision at that time, but I remember that she proposed that as one potential solution.
Look, like, I think vendors reply to the questions that are asked of them. So I'm just saying that we should ask new questions, which is great. And Brendan's gonna maybe do that for us in 13 days, the poor.
Right. Yeah. Well, we need to ask Brendan to come back with something for our next meeting and take it from there. Peter, I know you've had your hand up again, and I'm going to give you another 3 minutes. Go ahead.
I'll be briefer than that, Pam, and I just want to agree with everything Roger just said. I think, but I also want to emphasize that I think a lot of the questions that Marcia asked already were answered, or at least, again, we were assured they were answered. And that's why you all ended up voting for the containment system, because there were no other options, and taking the deck off wasn't a possibility, wouldn't solve the problems, my understanding. So we may be recycling through questions that have already been answered. And the other question, I just want to go back to what Jan had said, which is that, what do we know about these chemicals? The Murray and Masterson report was pretty limited. And at the time, and again, I'm pretty invested in this, so the details are at my fingertips, but we weren't, as the public, allowed to ask any questions of Murray and Masterson. So I took it to the Vermont State Department of Health, and they looked at that report and assessed that they were hazardous chemicals, hazardous to human health. And they requested that the town put up a sign, which is, they put up 2 signs. One sign got taken down, I think, by a neighbor or somebody, the DPW, I'm not sure, but there's still an existing sign on one side of the bridge, which notifies people that there's hazardous materials. So, but the nature of those materials and their effect on human health is not entirely clear, because of the Masterson report was pretty limited, and we weren't, again, allowed to ask any follow-up reports. And my final point is I guess the real question is, do we want, if we are able to contain it at this point, is that what we want to do? Because I do believe we have a toxic site right in the middle of town, and it's now being absorbed into absorbent material. But you are all environmentalists. Is that the solution we want to have? I realize the expense here, but we talked about the expense last time. So it seems like we're rerunning things that we've already addressed. And everybody knows this is going to be expensive, but I think that's where we were last time, is we were given a choice, and the town had a gun to its head and said, okay, we'll pay the 62 grand for the containment system. That, yes, it was temporary. It was supposed to last a lot longer than 2 years. I talked to the contractor personally. So we didn't think that we were going to be here in 2 years. Unfortunately, we are. Thank you.
Right, thank you, Peter. Marcia?
I think it's not that I want to contain the thing, it's that I want it to stop leaking as fast as possible. And so I think that if containment gets us there, then that's the first check. But then we have to, simultaneously keep looking at how we get the thing out.
Okay, I think we've beat this one to death. So I would like to.
The other thing, if I may, Pam, is that I don't necessarily think that I don't recall that there was a huge number of responses last time. So I do want to emphasize that with unclear advice and support from the state, let me just say it's unclear, that the town is working with, is inherently deficient and I think everyone is really doing the best they can because you don't get a half a dozen responses to these things.
Right.
You get the people who we used.
I found a posting July 26th of 2022 on something that's called the Construction Journal posting, talking about seeking competitive bids for this project. So I mean, there are places out there where RFPs can be posted and we can seek bids. And hopefully, if we go that route, we will get some responses and some creative solutions that don't cost millions of dollars. But we do need to get this resolved and as quickly as possible. So having said that, I would like to move on to the next item. And it is number 17, ratification of the CBA edition of the Juneteenth holiday. We were provided a motion by the town council, which Miranda forwarded to me, and that is the motion that you see tonight on your motion sheet. And that is all of the information that I have. I don't know if Brennan has anything to add to that.
No, I think what we're asking is just, again, because the legislative body needs to ratify something that's going to change the CBA, we are putting this to the board.
Okay, and it says we have a tentative agreement with the union, so it's just a matter of us ratifying it here tonight, and then they will accept this, and then the CBA employees will also be included in that holiday, correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right.
It's effective immediately. Do folks have Monday, I think, off?
Wednesday.
It's Wednesday this year.
So yes, it's effective immediately, right?
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay, would someone like to make a motion?
I move to approve and ratify the Juneteenth paid holiday extending to members of the NEPBA bargaining unit per a tentative agreement reached between the union and the town.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Okay, Priscilla, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Roger?
Yes.
Marcia?
Yes.
And I am a no. I'm going to be consistent with my vote on this holiday when it came up the first time. So it's 4 yes and 1 no. Motion passes. Okay. So before we have a motion to adjourn, I just want to quickly summarize some of the things that we need to cover at the next meeting. I want to come with a warning for the special election and the informational hearing. We need to talk about the open meeting law legislation and how that will fit into our handbook. We have committee appointments coming and hopefully we'll have something more on Moreland Bridge and possibly authorizing an RFP. And I'm hoping that maybe the review of the personnel policies will be done and those will come back to us. And on our sheet here, I also mentioned some other updates that Brennan said he hopefully will have for us on Tracy Hall, hydrant rental, and maybe the legal opinion on subcommittees that has been sought. So we have a big agenda coming up in 2 weeks. Okay, well, it's 9 p.m. and I would entertain a motion to adjourn if there's no further business.
I move to adjourn the meeting at 9 p.m.
Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you, Marcia. All right. Priscilla, how do you vote?
Oh, yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Roger?
Yes.
Marcia?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. We are adjourned at 9 p.m.
Thank you,
Recording
everyone.
stopped.
Thanks,
night.
everybody.
Yes, thank you. Good night.